Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanagari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanagari Suranana Braja Janaranjana Suranana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Kiha Vanacharya Yamuna Kiha Vanacharya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanajari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanajari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Kiha Vanacharya Yamuna Kiha Vanacharya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Hare Krishna, now is it audible? Hare Krishna.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadakasharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman
You can hear Maharaj, right?
Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shil Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Oma Gyana Tivanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Taksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Daditva Padantikam Vandeham Shiguro Shiyuta Padakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavam Scha. Everyone can move up. You don't have to be afraid we're all vegetarians here. Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Dagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hri Priye Vanchakapatruvyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The title of this lecture is something like Guess or Guru. Is that right? I guess you have to guess who's Guru. So I'm going to read from the Bhagavad Gita, which explains something about this. Has anyone here heard of the Bhagavad Gita before? Good. This is chapter 4, text number 34. By the way, my name is Prahladananda Swami. And you can call me Maharaj for short. Easier to remember.
Wait, I'll just.
And we have something called Sanskrit. Most people don't speak Sanskrit anymore. Anyone here speak Sanskrit? Shanti, Shanti.
अरे प्रभु एंड टाइम में इनका वो चल रही है.
Who is this? That's chapter 5. Tadvidit pranipatena pariprasthena sevaya Pudekshanti te jnanam jnanastatadarshanah. Just try to learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. True Prabhupada's purport. The path of spiritual life is undoubtedly difficult. Therefore, the Lord advises that we approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord itself. No one could be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is, as it to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation and dry arguments cannot help one progress in the path, the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret advancement of spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the bona fide spiritual master will not be effective. One has to pass the test of the spiritual master. When he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses him with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. One should not only hear submissively, but one should get a clear understanding through submission, service, and inquiries. The bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind to the disciple. When the disciple is always submissive, is ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. So the verse again, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshanti te jnanam jnananas tattvadarshanaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Askataya. Here it mentions the term guru, which is quite common nowadays in the vocabulary in the Western world. So guru means heavy, heavy with knowledge. So anyone who knows computer science very well is considered the guru of computer science. Anyone who knows how to play tennis, he's the guru of tennis. But this is referring to someone who has knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, everyone, in one sense, has to choose an authority and follow them. When we were born, immediately we got an authority, our mommy. Mommy said, do this, and we went Google, Google. Because we didn't know, there was no choice. Of course, maybe from some past lifetime, we were very rebellious, and we decided, whatever mommy tells me this time, I'm not going to do. But generally speaking, when we have our parents, they train us what's to be done and what's not to be done. Of course, we may learn from what they're actually doing rather than what they're saying. But in any case, everyone has to accept an authority. When our spiritual teacher, Srila Prabhupada, was speaking to one professor at Moscow University, Professor Kataski could not understand our philosophy. Our philosophy begins with understanding the difference between the body and the soul. In other words, we are the souls. Right now, I'm not talking to any bodies. I'm talking to the souls. Hopefully, there's no dead body here without a soul. Therefore, generally, we're expressing ourselves to the souls within the bodies. And therefore, the first teaching Krishna gives in this book called Bhagavad Gita is that we ourselves are eternal. The soul is eternal. He doesn't change. It doesn't matter how much the body is changing. For instance, we had a little baby body, then we had a 15-year-old body, and we have whatever body we have now. And that's not the end of this body, hopefully. We'll get more and more bodies. But we ourselves within the body, we're unchanging. We're always the same person. What we're experiencing is always different. Even what we're thinking about is different. Even how we see things is different. But the person who's experiencing the sensations of the gross physical body and the feelings of the subtle material body and our identification with his body, it's always the same person, ourselves, the soul, who's conscious. The body is not conscious. You may take a puppet and you may move the puppet because your hand's inside. But once you take your hand outside of the puppet won't move anymore. But that doesn't mean that the puppet died, because puppets can't die. Anything that's dead can't die. So you may be relieved that your body is not going to die because it's already dead. Just logic. And since the body is dead, it can't die. But we ourselves were alive, and anything that's alive, that's conscious, can't die either. So nothing's going to die. Isn't that good news? Now some people may think when you take your hand out of the puppet falls on the ground. They may start lamenting, oh, the puppet has died. Put the puppet in a nice box and take it to the puppet grave. say nice things about the puppet. It entertained so many children. It was such a sweet puppet, unlike these other puppets from the other show. Unfortunately, it's dead. Bury the puppet and put some flowers around it. Wish it well on its journey, wherever it's going. So similarly, Krishna begins explaining that we're not this body. Now, this one significance of it is that, practically speaking, there are very few people who begin their teachings like that. If you go to a university and study any subject, they're not going to start their explanation by explaining that we're all eternal. Now, Srila Prabhupada explained that to a professor of Indology at the of Hinduism at the University of Moscow, that the soul is eternal. But Professor Kataski could not understand anything what Prabhupada was talking about. Then Prabhupada tried to explain that in the Vedic culture, there are different classes of people. Some are pure and some are less pure. They have their different duties according to their purity and their knowledge. Professor Kataski was a communist. He couldn't understand anything Prabhupada was talking about. Finally, Srila Prabhupada said, well, one thing is that everyone has to accept an authority. You're accepting Lenin as your authority, and we're accepting Krishna as our authority. But the basic principle is that everyone has to have an authority. Now, wherever Lenin's going to go, according to our philosophy, that's where you're going to go. And wherever Krishna goes, that's where we're going to go. If you want to find out where your authorities went, you have to follow their footprints. And when you follow their footprints, eventually you'll come to where they are. So wherever Lenin goes, if you follow his footprints, that's where you're going to go. And wherever Krishna goes, we follow his footprints, that's where we're going to go. That Professor Kataski could understand. Unfortunately, he couldn't understand anything else. And even when Srila Prabhupada asked, can you get me a taxi in Moscow around 1974 or 75, Professor Kataski could not even get a taxi for Prabhupada. Anyhow, such was Russia at that time. So the point is that everyone has a guru. Of course, in the Western world, we have so many authorities. You turn the channel on a television, you get a new authority telling you probably the opposite of what the other channel was telling you. We've had our parents tell us what's good and what's bad, our friends telling us what's good and bad, our professors, our teachers, the newspapers, the radio, and Facebook. They're all telling us thumbs up or thumbs down. And therefore, our minds are quite confused. We don't know what's to be done and what's not to be done. Sometimes we don't even know what's up and what's down or what's around. Therefore, this idea of guru is based upon a principle of not blindly following a guru, because that will not be very helpful. As I said today, at the beginning of this book, of course, this is not the book, this is my book. This is Apple Notebook. At the beginning of our book called Bhagavad Gita, we have a copy here. Is this Bhagavad Gita? Yeah? The Bhagavad. At the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains how we should accept this philosophy. That one lady approached Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is the name of our spiritual teacher. This is our book called Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada, one lady approached him and asked him if he could recommend an edition of this book, Bhagavad Gita, for her to read it. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, actually, I can't recommend any Bhagavad Gita, because at that time, there were 600 translations of this book called Bhagavad Gita in English alone. But every one of them, Prabhupada said, the person who's translating gives his own opinion. Could you imagine writing a book about your opinion on a particular subject, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent or whatever? You write a book, I love the Democrats, all about, and then someone translates it, and it's the Democrats are all bad. Then you might get a little upset that somehow or another you're not reading, you're mistranslating what I said. So similarly, Prabhupada said, well, all these people are translating the Bhagavad Gita because it was originally in Sanskrit, are giving their own interpretation. Krishna says black and they say white. Krishna says up and they say down. Therefore, Prabhupada could not recommend a particular edition of this Bhagavad Gita to her. He said, just like if you want to take a medicine, that you have to take it according to the expert directions of the physician or according to the label on the bottle of the medicine. You can't just whimsically take it according to how you feel. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, we may accept it, we may reject it. But that's not the point. But that's what Bhagavad Gita is about. So far in this country, no one is forced to read the Bhagavad Gita. We don't even force you. If you don't read the Bhagavad Gita, we won't chain you to the temple until you do. You don't have to worry about that. It's free. We're free to do it. However, if we want to do it, we don't want to do it. We can accept it. We can reject it. But Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says that he's the supreme. Supreme means that he's the source of everything. Now, there are other authorities that we may not recognize who also agree with Krishna, at least in the Vedic culture, such as Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Sankaracharya, later on, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. They all agree with Krishna that he's the supreme. And there's a line of teachers that coming down from Krishna who have the same message as Krishna does. Krishna says, I'm the supreme. And they also say he's the supreme. So that's called disciplic succession. Now, we don't have to blindly accept them, what they're saying. We shouldn't blindly reject them either. You can blindly reject them. Practically everyone in this world nowadays, they just blindly reject Bhagavad Gita, or they don't even know it's existing. But that's all right. Krishna will still get his offerings on our altar every day, even if you reject it. The point is, it's up to us whether we want to find out what Bhagavad Gita says and experience it. Now, the guru means, at least according to what Prabhupada explained, is one who has experience of Krishna. And there's different levels of experience. Some experience may allow us to repeat what Krishna says with some conviction because we've experienced it. Just like if someone walks out today and says it's colder today. Now, this is a person with experience. Now, we may blindly reject it. We may blindly accept it. But he just said it's cold. And he tells us, well, this is the way out. It says exit. If you go out this exit, you'll go outside and you can experience whether it's cold or not. You can find out for yourself. You don't have to accept what I said, but at least I can give you the direction how to find out what I said if you want to take it. So similarly, there's one level of experiencing, that is to hear the knowledge and then to understand what it says and then to repeat it so that others could try to help others understand too. There's another level where one is actually in the same mood, the same experience being talked about. They're not only theoretically presenting the knowledge, but they've actually realized it. They were experiencing it. Generally speaking, one can speak with more conviction on that level. But still, if Bhagavad Gita is true and Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita, and one is repeating the same knowledge that the Krishna spoke, according to one's level of understanding, if we follow their directions, at least we'll come to the same level of experience that they have. Not everyone's going to be perfect. Like if you want to play tennis or golf, for instance, golf. Now, the most perfect golf player, every time they hit the ball, they're going to get a hole in one. But it's very rare you find anyone who gets a hole in one every time. But if after going through the whole golf course, we get a score of, say, 18 times 4, which is 50, let's see, 72. 72. Now, if someone has a score of 72 and they meet someone more expert, they have a score of 52, then you can't say, well, I'm sorry, sir, I'm not going to learn from you because you don't have a score of 18. I only learn from people who have a score of 18. No, if someone has a score of 52 and they have 22 points lower than you do, then maybe you can learn from them and come up to 52 also, which would be quite an improvement. In this world, we don't only learn from people who are perfect in the science. Matter of fact, we don't even know any science where someone's perfect. But we learn from people who who know more about a subject than we do. So at least we can come to their level of understanding. So in Bhagavad Gita, to gradually get to the level that's being talked about, there are 3 levels. One level is to understand the difference between ourselves and the body, that we are spiritual beings. The other level is that within everyone, there is someone supplying us with remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. That even a little ant walking on the ground, he has his intelligence, just like we have intelligence. The ant on the ground may be looking for sugar from some sweet, and someone is supplying him with intelligence how to find it. And similarly, we may be looking for a sweet also, but I think the ant is probably more capable of finding it first than we are. So in that way, the ant appears to be a genius, mystic power for finding sweets. Now, we may have our own abilities above the ant, but in certain fields, there are so many different living entities who are more qualified than we are. If we try to fly without a plane or anything else, if we just flap our arms and try to fly, we might not be as successful as a bird is. So therefore, there's someone giving all living entities a certain amount of intelligence to do what they're desiring to do. Now, above all that, according to our philosophy, there's the Supreme Person. And it's just logical. It's not just based upon sentiment. Just like everyone here had a father and mother. Isn't that right? Anyone brought by the stalk? No, we all had a father and mother. And our father and mother also had a father and mother. And our father and mother also had a father and mother. Now, where in our history of our family tree, we trace our family tree back and back and back, and then we find there was a monkey. Does anyone have on their family tree a monkey swinging? Oh, there's great-great-great-grandfather Harry. he always looked pretty strange. He looked like he needed a shave. And there's grandmother Lucy. She's as hairy as he is. They both have the same smile, kind of like a funny grin. Reminds me of my aunt. And then if you trace the family tree even further back, the great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, do you find a sheep? Anyone find a sheep? What's that?
So what a family.
Yeah, the black sheep in your family, the one that everyone talks about. And then you trace it back and back and back, and there is great great grandfather Squeaky. He's a mouse. And then finally you get to the most solid member of your family, and it's a rock. And then you trace the rock's family back, you find out it came out of nothing. It was before the Big Bang, there was nothing hardly. Maybe there was something, but it was so insignificant that it was practically nothing. So practically nothing or nothing had a mother, because everyone has a mother. So one day, Mother Nothing said to Son Nothing, why don't you make something out of yourself? You're an embarrassment. All my nothing friends say that you have a son who's practically nothing. Because he's nothing, he practically never has done anything. So after so many, when you're nothing, you have a lot of time on your hands. So finally, Mother Nothing decided my son should make something out of himself and started to nag her son. Why don't you make something out of yourself? Get a life, get something. So Son Nothing decided, I'll try to make myself something. And for a long, long time, he tried to make himself something, which is hard when you're nothing. But anyhow, according to the theory of the Big Bang, one day, after hearing his mother nagging him, he exploded. He got so angry, he exploded. And then he just flew in all directions, trying to get away from his mother. He just flew in all directions. And Mother Nothing said, all right, son, just settle down. So here we are now. So the point is that, is it really a fact that from monkeys, men have come? Has anyone ever gone to a zoo and see the monkey, and you go to the monkey cage, look in the monkey cage and say, wow, that monkey had a baby, it looks exactly like my brother. maybe Darwin was right. Has anyone ever? Hopefully not.
Reporting from Channel 1. Human monkeys.
No, from monkeys come. From human beings come. From giraffes come. And that's our experience. Otherwise, what we're hearing is science fiction from the so-called science. Completely outside our experience, that somehow or another, there's someone who's born without a father and mother, just came out of the void. Got so bored being in the void, he just decided to come out, become something. No, even the scientists who say like that, the point is they don't believe it, that everything came about by accident. Because everything came about by accident, why do they try so hard to get their PhD degree? Why don't they just sit at home and by accident they can get their PhD degree? Why don't they believe, if they believe in accident, why don't they just wait for good accident and they get everything they want? Why do they strive so hard to get money? Why don't you stay at home? Maybe out of the void, the money will come. Oh, look at that. It's all coming out of nothing. No one believes that. Actually, no one is. If you believe, for instance, if you step out into the middle of the road without looking in New York City, maybe you're going to get hit. So before you step out into the highway and the road, you look both ways, because you believe that something's going to happen if you don't do something. But they think, well, you don't have to do anything and it's all going to happen. But no one believes that because they're all doing what's necessary to get what they want. So they profess one philosophy, but they act in a completely different way. That's called hypocrisy. They say that the world has come out of nothing, that there is no intelligence behind it. But is that very intelligent? Does that show intelligence? That just like we have a watch, would anyone believe that the watch just came out of nothing? Or by chance, this watch, for example, it just came about by chance. Would you believe that? Just like Darwin, Sir Isaac Newton one time, he made a model of the universe with all the planets, circulating around the sun, etc. So one of his colleagues came into his office and said, Sir Isaac Newton, this looks like a very nice model of the universe. Who made it? And he said, I don't know. I just walked in here myself. I heard this big bang, and out of nowhere, the model just fell onto my desk. Isn't that amazing? So his friend said, can I check your breath? Yeah. You seem a little intoxicated. No, you got to believe me, I walked in here, I heard this big bang, and suddenly this model fell on my desk. I don't know what happened. He said, come on, you're just trying to kid me. He said, well, what do you think? Why don't you believe me? According to you, the whole universe came about like that. So why couldn't a little model of the universe come about like that too? So actually, if we look at the universe, for instance, the planets are moving their orbits exactly on time. The sun arises at a certain time and the sun sets at a certain time. As a matter of fact, our watches are just made to try to measure the movements of the sun. But the movements of the sun are much more accurate than anyone can create any watch can measure. Now in India, sometimes they tie a bull by the nose to a rope, to a pole. And the bull pulls a very heavy weight, a weight that would take 50 people to pull. They do it because they have grains, and the bull walks around with this very heavy weight in the back, and it crushes the grains. And he walks around the pole. Now the bull is so powerful, it would take 50 men, strong men, to pull that weight. But the bull is able to pull it by himself. But still, the bull cannot move 1 inch beyond the rope that it's tied to by its nose. So similarly, the sun, which is so powerful that at one moment it's giving off more heat and light than all of human society has utilized since its known existence. But although the sun is so powerful, it cannot move 1 inch beyond its orbit. Therefore, a very intelligent person named Lord Brahma, he says in a book called the Brahma Samhita, it's Chaksha Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam, Rajasamasta Suramurte Sheshiteja, Yasyagaya Brahmati Samprita Kala Chakro, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamahan Brajami. He's worshiping Krishna not because his mother told him to do it. He's worshiping him because he has experience. That why? He says, Yet Shaksha Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam, that the sun is such a powerful graha or planet, and that it's giving off unlimited heat and light since its existence. But although it's so powerful, still someone has arranged it, it cannot move 1 inch beyond its orbit, outside of its orbit. Because it says that the sun moved a little closer to the earth, everyone would be cooked. You wouldn't have to use your oven. You just go out in the New York sideway, and you can cook everything out there. And if the sun moved a little further away from the earth, everything would be frozen. You can take all your TV dinners out of the refrigerator and just put them outside, and it would be frozen. But every day, most of us are not worried that the sun is going to move closer to the earth or further away from the earth, and that's the end. Because it's moving exactly in an orbit. So the question is, by what force, by which intelligence is such a powerful planet as the sun exactly in an orbit? Not only the sun, but all these other planets that we're seeing in the universe, we don't find that they're all crashing into each other. They're all staying in their lanes. We never hear a siren. Here in New York, you hear sirens all the time because people don't stay in their lanes. You get outside their lane and there's crashes. But we look up in the sky, we say, my God, there's Mars. It's good. A little left, Mars. You're going to crash into Venus. Oh, no. So they're all staying in their orbits. So it takes intelligence to do that. So he says Govinda is behind the whole thing. In other words, there might be a God. According to this observation, we're not saying that this is absolute proof that there's a supreme person, but there's every indication there must be. For instance, the scientists, some of them say there's no God. It all came about by accident. But then can they do what God does, what Krishna does? For instance, can the scientists create a machine and you put grass in one end and milk comes out the other? Wouldn't that be nice? Milk is quite expensive nowadays compared to when I was younger. So if you could have a machine, of course, there's not so much grass around here, but there's enough places you can go and find grass. And you put the grass in one end, and on the other end will come milk. You can have ice cream and whatever, yogurt from your backyard. But the scientists can't create such a machine. But the supreme scientist, Krishna, has. Unfortunately, they don't appreciate his machine. They don't give it, Krishna or the machine, any recognition, like a Nobel Prize for creating such a machine. So that machine is called the cow. Now, if a scientist could create a male machine and a female machine, and when they get together, they make little machines, that would be a great accomplishment by the scientists. We would appreciate that. The scientists could create a male Rolls Royce and a female Rolls Royce. And you put them together, they make little Rolls Royces. And when they grow up, you just give them some gasoline or maybe some oil, and they grow up, and everyone gets a Rolls Royce. But so far, the scientists cannot do that. They only talk about it. But Krishna has done that in 8,400,000 species of life. He's created a male machine and a female machine. And when they get together, they make little machines. And they grow up and they can make machines too. Therefore, with the use of our intelligence, we can see that there's a great possibility there's a great scientist behind this universe. It didn't come about by accident. After all, they say the sun came about by accident. So that means they probably know how the accident happened. If you figured out it came about by accident, then you should show us how the accident happened. Otherwise, you can't make such a statement. For instance, if you go on a street and there's a big car crash and the police come, they say, what happened? And the people there say, don't worry about it. It was just an accident. So they called us. We want to find out what happened. Something happened here. No, it was just an accident. You can go back. No, their job is to find out how the accident occurred. Nothing, there's no accident. You run over someone on the street, the police come and say, "What happened?" No, it's nothing, just an accident. There's no cause behind it. I didn't run over them. It was just an accident. That's how they got run over. No, you're guilty. You're the one who ran over them. You're responsible. No, it was an accident. You say the whole universe came about by accident. No one caused it. So this is an accident. I didn't cause it. It's just one of those universal things that happens. No, we always hold someone responsible, even if it's an accident. So the question is, how did this accidental universe come about? How was it created? So that's an inquiry that a real scientist would make, if he's a real scientist, to find out what's the cause. They're trying to find out what's the cause. If someone gets sick, the doctor is supposed to find out what the cause is. If there's an accident, the police are supposed to find out what the cause is. If there's a universe, we should try and figure out what the cause is. And if we can actually figure out the cause, then we should be able to duplicate it. So the scientists say the sun has come about by accident, then they should know how the accident occurred. And therefore they should be able to make a little sun, a smaller sun, and put it over to the North Pole and help the Eskimos. And if they can't do that, that's too big. At least make a little sun, the size of maybe one of these fans, and have it circulate in this room during the winter. Save us heat and light, our electricity bill and our heating bill. But the scientists actually can't do that. All they can do is talk about how everything came about by accident. So, according to this verse, guru means one who's understood and can logically explain to us how things have come about and how we can investigate and find out for ourselves, how we can experience for ourselves, understand for ourselves, and then take to a path by which we can experience to ourselves a particular science called self-realization. So there's a theory in the book of the Bhagavad Gita that we're all eternal. There's a theory that we're being directed by intelligence. And there's a theory that there's a supreme person who's the source of everything, who's the cause behind all causes. Now it's only logical there must be such a person. Because everyone here, for instance, has some beauty, but there's someone here who may get elected as the most beautiful. Everyone here has some money. There may be someone here who has more money than everyone else here. Similarly, there may be someone who in New York has the most amount of money, or in America, or in this world, the richest person. But there's always someone who's supreme. There must be someone who is the most of something. So that's the definition of the supreme. He has the most beauty. He has the most riches. He has the most fame. He has the most knowledge. He has the most renunciation. He has the most strength. That's what supreme means. There's someone who's there who's supreme, at least in every field. So if our objective is to find out who's the supreme, then we should know what we're looking for. Generally speaking, we judge someone according to how much wealth they have, according to how much knowledge they have, according to how much strength they have, according to how much fame they have, according to how much renunciation they have, according to how much beauty they have. We judge this person as superior. So our objective should be to find out, at least in each one of these fields, who is supreme. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, at least, and others confirm it, that he's the supreme. And he gives us a scientific process by which we can discover for ourselves and experience from ourselves if what Krishna is saying is true. Now, if Krishna is actually the supreme controller of this universe, we can't demand to him You must come here right now and prove that you're supreme. Because he was under our orders, he wouldn't be the supreme. If we order the president of the United States, whoever it may be right now, I don't know. If we order him come here immediately to this the Radha Govinda Mandira and prove to us that you're the president. Call it, hey, Mr. Biden, are you still the president? We just decided we had a meeting at the Radha Govinda Mandira. We were having a debate whether you're the president or not. Come immediately and prove it. What? You're not coming? Well, we don't have any faith in you at all. Click. No, he may be the president, he might not be the president. But we can't demand he comes here and prove it to us. We have to accept it on the basis of authority. It's like if you go outside, you see a policeman, you say, are you really a policeman? Prove it to me. I don't believe it. I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to, rob this store next door. Let's see if you're really a policeman. And he comes and he says, you're under arrest. I don't believe it. I have no faith in you. Go away. Now, we may believe that there's a God. We may not believe there's a God. That's all right. But then again, who's causing this body to change? It's not that we wake up in the morning and say, today, I've decided my body's not going to change at all. I'm not going to grow older for the next 25 years. After 25 years, I'll consider it. No, in this material universe, there's an energy called time, and it's controlling everyone. We can't say, I don't like time, go away. At every moment, our bodies are changing. Everything's changing in the material world, except for time and the souls, of course. But in terms of the material energy, time is changing everything. But time doesn't change at all. It's not that you wake up in the morning, you read the New York Times. It says, fortunately, last night time died. Now we don't have to worry about time anymore because it disappeared. We're going to hold a special celebration in honor of time's disappearance. No, time is not going to disappear. So time actually is supreme. So we may not accept Krishna. We may think these devotees are kind of strange. They're bowing down before Krishna. But at the time when death comes and takes this body away, everyone bows down. Everyone's paying obeisance to time. You can't think, I'm dead, but I'm proud of it. No one's going to, I'm bowing down to no one, even when I'm dead. I'm going to stand straight. At the time of death, everyone bows down, everyone surrenders. So at least within our experience, we can see that time is supreme here. But time is controlling everything. And if it's moving the planets in their orbits under time, if we're eating food and it's being digested, and parts of it assimilated under time, then time has some intelligence behind it. And therefore time, every time we see intelligence, there must be a person. Just like here, this harmonium, for instance, is also changing out of time, but there's no intelligence behind it, or there's no apparent intelligence in the harmonium. If you think there's intelligence in the harmonium or you perceive it, maybe you should stop taking drugs. But for most people, we don't find any intelligence in the harmonium. So the harmonium is not going to come up and give a lecture here, nor is it going to do anything, good or bad. There's no intelligence behind it. But in this material world, we find time under time, so many things are going on with intelligence Therefore, we can assume that behind intelligence, there's a person moving everything. That's just logic and reasoning. And in Bhagavad Gita, under the direction of our spiritual teacher and others who have understood this philosophy, we can follow the process by which we can satisfy the person who's controlling everything so that he'll actually reveal to us this knowledge, including himself. In other words, even to understand that the body's changing, but we're not changing, requires intelligence, spiritual intelligence. And if we follow the process that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, then it becomes clearer and more experienced by us what he's talking about. And anyone who teaches us how to do that, they're called a teacher or guru. Guru is just another name for teacher. And if we don't follow this path to find out who the Supreme is, then we'll follow some other path, how to find out how we can get more wealth, how we can get more beauty, how we can get more strength, how we can get more fame, how we can become more or less the Supreme. We can compete and try it with each other, see who's the wealthiest, who's the strongest, who's the most intelligent, who's the most renounced, etc. But this kind of competition is actually just a waste of time. Because under the laws of nature, under the laws of time, whatever wealth we have now at the time of death, we can't take it with us when we leave this body. It all stays here. Whatever beauty we have in this, whatever beauty this body has, it's not going to last forever. Under the laws of time, it's changing. But we ourselves are not changing. And therefore, if we want to do something beneficial for ourselves, we should find out who we are and also find out who is the Supreme, who's controlling this universe that we're living in. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
March, last class, you were speaking about everybody has to accept certain authority, and then you mentioned wedding. So I wonder whose authority did he have?
What's that? Your mother was about your mother?
Oh, Maharaj, Urgai is asking under whose authority did Lenin, in your example before, where did he get the knowledge that he was espousing?
From his mother.
From his mother.
Well, originally, I mean, we have many births, but in this lifetime, the first instructors we have is mother. The mother goes to the little baby, goo 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 goo, and begins instructing the baby. The baby can't say, "I don't accept. Sorry, you're talking nonsense, mom." Say something intelligent to it. No, he learns, goo 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 goo, and the baby goes goo 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 goo. But she's not the only authority. She's not the only instructor. We have so many instructors. Some of them say the same thing. Some of them clash with each other. Sometimes we believe one thing. Sometimes we believe something else. So we have so many authorities here, so many instructors. But they don't. Just like if you drop a pebble in a lake, and the pebble will make the water will come in circles. The waves will come in circles. If you keep on dropping the pebble in the same place, then the circles are all the same. They're all harmonious with each other. But if you drop pebbles in different parts of the lake, all the circles will clash with each other. So simply because we've had so many authorities since our birth, therefore our minds are bewildered. Because all these authorities usually wind up clashing with each other and just bewildering us. And so after a while, we don't accept anyone as an authority. We don't accept anything as authority. Because whatever someone says today, they change tomorrow. Like when I went to high school, I took physics, and they told us that according to Heisenberg, that according to some physics principle, that light was a wave they discovered in 1920. In 1930, they decided it was a particle. It wasn't a wave anymore. And when I was learning physics, they told us it's not a particle, it's not a wave, it's a wavicle. And who knows what it is now? Maybe it's a popsicle. It's always changing. So therefore, people have become skeptical. They don't really accept anyone as an authority. But doesn't mean that there's no authority, that everything is just, there's no time because we don't accept it. Sorry, it hasn't been proven scientifically. The time is changing everything. So I don't accept your philosophy. The time is changing everything. It doesn't really matter. You can't say that when we're about to leave the body, I don't believe that I'm going to leave my body, so therefore I'm going to stay here. No, there are laws of nature, whether we accept them or not. And it doesn't matter how many people have a different opinion on it. They work. So that's an authority who can tell us what the actual laws are, rather than, and that work all the time. Not for, sometimes or once in a while. They work all the time for everyone, all the time. That's called science. Not that I say I'm a scientist, but every 10 years I change my opinion on something. It's not science. That's called mental speculation. It's like Prabhupada was talking to one Indology teacher, a teacher of Hinduism at a big university in America. And he came to see Prabhupada to talk to him. So the professor said, Prabhupada asked the professor, "You're a professor of what philosophy? What subject?" He said, "I'm a professor of Hindology, Hinduism." So Prabhupada, "Oh, that's very nice." And then the professor said, "But I have one question for you, Swamiji. Can you tell me what's the definition of Hinduism?" So Prabhupada looked at him and he said, You're a professor of Hinduism? And you're asking me what the definition of Hinduism is? And there was one PhD student, Prabhupada, named Swarup Damodar. So Prabhupada turned to Swarup Damodar and said, here's a professor of Hinduism, and he's come here to ask me what the definition of Hinduism is. And he's teaching Hinduism. So what do you think about that, Swarup Damodar? So Swarup Damodar said, he's a cheater, Prabhupada. He's a cheater. Therefore, if we're going to actually be an authority, we should know what we're talking about. Otherwise, we're not an authority, we're a student. Anything else? Thank you. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
Thank you. I love your style.
Very
Sharp and humor.
Hare Krishna.
We held in
Little sheep
Holiness
outside, and then this body is
I'll go down to
falling
Holiness.
down. What's your next talk?
Not the Lotus Room, Holiness.
You have to. When's my next lecture here?
And Prahladananda Swami will be here till the 18th, and he's giving morning classes here at the Brooklyn Temple and
Tomorrow.
online classes.
Tomorrow I give class.
So tomorrow, yeah, here, morning class.
And afterwards?
And Tuesday,
And you're gonna do a second night. You're gonna
Tuesday
Saturday.
at the Brooklyn Temple, Tuesday night program. Wednesday online at the Bhakti Center, the Brooklyn Temple.
Yeah, he knows. Yes.
And Wednesday at Second Avenue also.
And Bhakti Center?
Online Bhakti Center will be Thursday and Sunday.
Soon, but